she is!
She's the one! She's the one who caused all of it! Fire!
If you value your lives, you will depart this place.
Fire! Fire!
When designing a new protagonist for the second Darkstalkers game, which would be called Vampire Hunter in Japan or Night Warriors elsewhere, the team was introducing characters that offered a very different perspective to the game's world than what had been seen before. Haruo Murata thought up a character who fights against the other Darkstalkers, but if he was just a normal human, he probably wouldn't stand a chance. So Murata made him into a Dhampir, a hybrid who is half human and half vampire. This character would be called Donovan, which was a name suggested by Capcom's overseas branch in North America that would supposedly be well received by people worldwide. Their input didn't stop there either, as they had also given feedback regarding how characters should be designed and what kind of moves or animations they should have. Character designer Bengus had reportedly also joined in during the conception phase. Donovan was originally going to have a bit of a Western gunman vibe, though his final design made him appear more like a Buddhist monk. He would have access to a legendary demon sword and mystical powers that enabled him to borrow the strength of unearthly creatures to fight against his enemies. Donovan drew a lot of comparisons to the character Vampire Hunter D, though Murata claims he didn't actually notice the similarities until someone mentioned it to him. There was another female character planned to appear in Night Warriors that went through several different phases. During her conception, she had variations that ranged in age, personalities, appearances, and emotional expressions. In one version, the team had considered giving her the ability to manipulate a doll as a fighting style. Another had her being able to control plants, while another had her using a revolver or a machine gun underneath her skirt. As she started to have a greater emphasis on weapons, the team felt she started becoming too much like Sienko, so they toned down her presentation. According to series planner Noritaka Funamizu, graphics designer Takanori Kimoto came to him and asked if it would be okay to draw her in a particular way. He was given the go-ahead and came back with a small girl carrying a headless doll, which looked similar to the character Wednesday from the Addams Family. Her name would be Anita, and while it was initially changed to Amanda outside Japan, it eventually reverted back. Instead of being a playable character, she would be a companion to Donovan and always appeared next to him during a match, supposedly being the source of his own power. Like Donovan, Anita is also believed to have a mixed heritage, though further details of her origins are vague. With a series like Darkstalkers, the team was dealing with uniquely scary and mostly serious demon characters, so they didn't restrict themselves to happy endings. In fact, some of the endings to the characters' stories are quite dark or depressing, where players are made to feel like characters simply cannot escape their tragic fate. Murata believed that this was an essential part of what made Darkstalkers that much more interesting when compared to other games available at the time. As a Dhampir, Donovan is the offspring of an affair between a vampire male and a human female. During his childhood, he and his mother were outcast in their own village due to his unnatural birth. One day, something causes the cursed blood within him to awaken, which results in Donovan killing everyone in the village, including his mother. After years of suffering, all Donovan yearned for was peace, but he could find no solace from his dishonorable blood. He devoted his life to Buddhism for 10 years, but it wasn't enough to vanquish the pain in his heart. To atone for his past sins and possibly cleanse himself of his tainted blood, Donovan vows to defeat all of the Darkstalkers with the help of an ancient possessed sword known as Dilek, which granted him the powers of elemental spirits. After killing a Darkstalker, he would seal it away in an Iron Maiden torturing device he named Brad Abrude. During his journey, he adopts a young girl named Anita from an orphanage who possesses strong psychic powers and follows him around like a shadow. Her empty, heartless eyes and soft-spoken nature tell him how she was once feared and mistreated by others for her powers, just as he was long ago. Perhaps her detached and emotionless appearance was simply a defense mechanism to prevent herself from ever experiencing something as traumatizing in her life ever again. The only hints of her remaining childlike innocence is from a headless doll that she always keeps with her, possibly a gift from her birth mother. From that day forward, Donovan chooses to fight the Darkstalkers, not just for his own redemption, but for the sake of Anita opening her heart to others once again. Through Donovan and Anita, players are given a glimpse into how the existence of the Darkstalkers would have an effect on the innocent people who inhabit this world. Not only does it provide a perspective from those whose lives were victimized, but also how the rest of society views and treats them. Donovan fights these creatures and asks for no reward, yet he is still alienated by others as an outcast, and someone who is forever beneath them.
Even as they revere us as hunters of the dark, still they drive us from the warmth of their human light.
The same goes for Anita, whose stoic appearance hides a strong power within her, but is treated like some kind of crutch by those around her.
If anybody asks, you didn't see nothing, do you got it?
Donovan believes hunting down the Darkstalkers will grant both of them their long sought-after salvation, but ideals like that have become futile in a world that will never accept them for who they are. Haruo Murata designed Donovan to be a serious fellow, and his story was shaped around the notion that it should be okay to create a character who does not have a traditionally happy ending. Anita was a character that also came from a specific concept. The team designed Anita to fit this idea, and gradually fleshed her out by considering things like what would happen to her over the course of their story, and what kind of conversations Donovan might have with her. It's a topic that's been a focus of a number of Darkstalkers adaptations over the years, and Anita is often shown reaching a breaking point after all the tragedies she has witnessed. Some of them have portrayed Donovan eventually finding that salvation he sought after, and saving Anita in the process. But in his original ending to Night Warriors, the team decided to balance out the structure of their story by offering Anita salvation while Donovan faced a less forgiving fate. After defeating so many Darkstalkers, Donovan's own blood becomes too tainted for him to maintain control, causing him to succumb to his darker side. Having been with him for so long, Anita begins to cry as she witnesses his transformation, allowing her to finally feel emotions again. Their story then jumps 10 years into the future, where Anita has grown up able to live her life normally, while Donovan remains beside the bodies of his victims, lamenting his actions and longing for Anita to be by his side once again. For the third Darkstalkers game, Vampire Savior, players were treated to more new characters, though many fans noticed Donovan's absence from the roster. At first, it was believed that his ending in Night Warriors was the end of his story and the character, but in actuality, his removal was mainly due to the memory limitations to the game's arcade board. By the time the game was released on consoles, Donovan was finally added back into the roster along with Weitzel and Pyron. Anita was planned to be portrayed as a teenager and a new playable character in Vampire Savior, with the team going so far as creating poses and motions for her. Due to a lack of time and effort, she was only seen as the same little girl following Donovan as she was in Night Warriors. However, in Vampire Savior, Anita's true powers are hinted at when it is revealed that the Demon Lord Jeddah sees her as a threat. If allowed to reach her full potential, it's possible that Anita may become strong enough to rule over all the Darkstalkers. While the Darkstalkers fighting games were being released, both Donovan and Anita would make appearances in other video games by Capcom. Along with anime and manga adaptations, there was even a drama CD released in Japan called Vampire Hunter Gaiden: Donovan the Wanderer of Destiny, which featured the two of them in an original story. While they were sometimes featured together like they were in Darkstalkers, Anita would also make appearances in other video games by herself. In the Japanese version of Marvel Superheroes, Anita was selectable as a playable character, where she donned Donovan's sword Dailek and fought alongside Mei Ling in Street Fighter's Akuma. However, her character is considered incomplete and overpowered, as she was initially used as a test character by the developers. Anita was also an assist character in Marvel vs. Capcom, where she would throw out some familiar items and what appeared to be Donovan's corpse. Neither Donovan nor Anita were seen much in other games until 2005, when Capcom released a collection of all 5 Darkstalkers arcade games on the PlayStation 2. In the arranged versions of Vampire Savior, players could unlock a new character named D, who appeared to have Donovan's head on top of Dimitri's body. D was originally developed as an alternate to Dimitri, but as the team was running out of ideas at the time, they decided to give the character a serious case of enterograde amnesia, meaning his memory is essentially wiped every 30 minutes. This made him an easy character to work with since they didn't have to come up with any unique victory dialogue for him. D is essentially what became of Donovan several years after his ending in Night Warriors. He has since become fully corrupted by his tainted blood and has no recollection of his previous life. The whereabouts of his former companion Anita is something open to speculation. Because Vampire Savior takes place in a separate dimension created by Jeddah called the Majigan, it is hinted that the young Anita seen alongside Donovan is just a mental projection from the actual Anita, who would be much older by now. When completing the game as D, his final battle is a confrontation with the older Anita. However, when the fight begins, the screen goes black. What happens next is perhaps one of the biggest questions in the entire Darkstalkers narrative. The ultimate fate of Donovan and Anita has been a topic constantly debated by fans and even among the developers, as they had originally thought up a number of ways for how things played out in Vampire Savior. One of the possible endings had Donovan defeating Jeddah and choosing to remain in the Majigan while sending Anita back to the demon world Makai. Another ending had Donovan being consumed by the powers of darkness and going so far as attacking Anita, but his special bond with her stays his hand and he reclaims his humanity. Another more ominous ending had Jeddah defeating Donovan while Anita ends up being absorbed into Jeddah. After D confronts the older Anita and the screen goes black, the credits start rolling and players are shown pictures of what appears to be Anita visiting a grave. As she walks away, her body is shown to be glowing just as the image fades to black. These final images have given rise to all kinds of assumptions regarding what actually transpired. Was D ultimately killed by Anita? Is she finally free of her past, or has she now inherited the same tainted blood previously possessed by Donovan? If D truly was the present-day Donovan, this would mean his ending in Night Warriors was indeed canon. However, it is still unknown whether anything that transpired between D and the older Anita is officially considered canon or more of a what-if scenario, because it has only been acknowledged within this PlayStation 2 compilation. Many years later, it remains one of the series' biggest unsolved mysteries, because the roles of Donovan and Anita in the storyline have been a topic of discussion for so long, and yet never given a definitive resolution. According to Haruo Murata, there has never been any defining or official word about Anita and how she might affect the world around her. While the team certainly threw in a few vague hints about what might be possible, they wanted to present it in a way that basically leaves the future open to interpretation with endless potential. In their opinion, the players would enjoy the series more if they leave room for their imagination to fill in the rest.
Anita, これが定めか。
違う。